Hi, welcome to today's summer conversation. And I am so excited to introduce you to the guest who has me donning bright pink lipstick for this conversation. She inspired me. And in so doing, she reminded me of someone very dear to me who wouldn't leave the house without her bright pink lipstick. And that was my dear mom, who it's been end of 2017 since she passed. And so it's really special that she had me thinking of my mama in the best way ever. And I'm going to invite her on now. Welcome, Katie Ann Stylist. There will be a little delay, but here she is. Sometimes on these lives, there's like a little bit of a delay. The audio might be impacted, but here she is now, Katie Allen.
Oh, thank you. That one's so
Welcome.
sweet.
Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. I was like, we're twinning with our black tank tops and our pink lipstick.
And do you have shells as well?
I don't have shells. I have crystals. Oh, and I have my white. Oh, where's my camera? Yeah, look at us.
We did not coordinate this.
We haven't even really talked in about a week.
This is the power of Katie. Okay, she has the style vibes. They go off across the states, through the border to Canada, and here we are.
Across countries.
Right, it's everywhere. So whoever's joining us, who might have some shells and be wearing a black tank top, you're in the right place. And even if you're not, I'm just so happy to be having this conversation because we have a beautiful conversation that's going to be coming out, a more long form conversation that we had in the springtime. It'll be coming out in the fall. And I'm really thrilled about this concept of batch recording because it allows me to have some stillness when it comes to planning out the podcast. But enough about that. I want to introduce you to Katie. And Katie, why don't you give us a little bio of who you are, what you're passionate about, and I have a theme for what we'll be talking about once you're done.
Oh, juicy. So I'm Katie, personal stylist and podcaster, and most recently, the founder of Stylist Blog Community. So I'm really excited about that. My goal, my purpose in life, I think now is to really break down fashion stereotypes. The more I get into this work, the just more I just see how fashion has been vilified and used against us. And I think it's just such a powerful everyday self tool. So we can get into that. I don't know what the theme is, so we'll see how good I am at just random themes. But I love fashion. I've always loved fashion. It's always been what it was for me, and I just never thought it was enough. I went to school for fashion, and everyone said you'll never be able to get a career with that. So I thought I couldn't, and I went into marketing. So I was in marketing for about 17 years, and then here we are now, and I'm back, baby, and I'm super pumped with so much clarity and vision because I do know how powerful it is now.
I love it. I love that your initial calling kind of came back around. And this is a reminder for all of us that what is for us does not pass us by.
Yeah.
And those doors that may seem like they closed, maybe they're just closing temporarily. Maybe there's some inner work we need to do. Maybe there's some life experience we need to have so we can bring an even more robust sense of self and helping others transform through whatever it is we're meant to be doing.
Yeah.
And I love that you made your way back to style, and we've had such fun conversations. The theme of today, and yes, Robin says she can relate.
Yay!
Fashion degree as well.
Robin, we need to chat.
Yeah.
I was just telling someone the other day, when you get a fashion degree, and I even went to an art school, we were treated like we weren't supposed to be. Now, granted, I want to date myself. This is 1999, but we were treated like we weren't as smart as other kids. I remember being in an accounting class and the teacher saying, "You guys are gonna let the fashion kids answer all the questions," and I was like, "What?" I'm 42 and I still remember that.
You know what? It's so interesting. And yet, and my husband's an accountant, so it's amazing. We need accountants. All the accountants I know have a super sense of personality and fun. It's so interesting. It's so counter what the world will tell us. However, let's just think of some of the major fashion brands. Are they kind of doing okay financially, maybe? Well,
So
Lauren, like, I don't know, throw out your favorite Vera Wang. Hello. And
yeah,
what I love about Vera Wang's story is she got started later in life in that career after figure skating, and there's no rule book.
yeah.
I think this is the key. We get to do it in the way that is resonant for us and resonant in the season of life we're in.
Mm-hmm.
And as Katie, and for those who may be watching, if you don't know, I also have a podcast, which this conversation will be hosted on, called Connect with Sheila Botello. And Katie's full story will be coming out on that in the fall, which is like really near. We're almost in the fall now. And I also have an app called the Season Self-Care app, because I love to talk about how people can thrive through the seasons of their life while making an impact and not burning out. And so my theme for today, Katie, is and this is for our listeners really, and how for them to identify it. I think you'll love it. What season of style are you in?
Ooh.
And found from the clients you're working with as they're moving through different phases in their life, like if they're moving from, like getting their education shifted to move into a new career, their style is going to perhaps come along with that. Or are they shifting out of corporate like you and starting a business? Your fashion can shift with that. Or are they shifting into motherhood or out of motherhood, or something like that? So maybe speak to that. What comes to mind when you think of what your clients have experienced in regards to their seasons of style changing?
Oh, I love that so much. That's such a good question. There's so much. I mean, right now we're about to head into fall, which is the biggest season in fashion, hands down. And I love it because it's such a sense of renewal. And I don't know what's so much more special about the fall. I mean, spring is big too, but I think it's something about the fall of like the harvesting. And it's like all the hard work that we've done, like here it is. And like, it's really feels like so much more of a celebration, where spring kind of feels like a breakout. So I'm really, really excited for that just shift overall. Oh, this is such a good, juicy question. So I think like from a collective standpoint, that we're in a really season of being a casual as a society in general. And I think what comes up the most for me is women connecting to what casual means for them and how to connect. Now, casual and no effort are two different things. And I think that's what I tease apart the most. No effort and low effort are two different things. And casual doesn't mean that I have on sweatpants covered in dog hair and I haven't showered in a week. That's not casual. We're not practicing self-care because of something else that's happening in our life. So I feel like that's a conversation that comes up a lot, is how to be really comfortable in that. And I think it's evolution. So there's a lot of needing to give ourselves permission around evolving. I love that you positioned it like that in like seasons, because it is a constant evolution. And every time you make a huge transition, that's when the style really comes in. And for some reason, we tend to really give ourselves permission in those spaces, but sometimes we don't. So I would say like right now, I feel like a shift, and the things that we're talking about the most are transitioning from early stage business ownership or corporate, and then how do I dress now that I have my business? Because when you were in corporate, one of the things that I would say for busy women and for anyone who's busy, sometimes we just want to be told what to do, because it's easy. If you just tell me what to do, I don't have to think, right? So we default to that a lot. And I think that's one of the perceived perks of being in corporate from a style standpoint, is you have a dress code, or you're just going to mimic what everyone else is around you. And then you start your own business and it becomes really overwhelming. And you can attach your style to any part of your life, really. So like running your business can be really overwhelming because you don't have the game plan. You have to make the game plan. You have to execute the game plan. You have to plan, like it's all on you now. And I think our style follows suit on that a little bit. We're like, oh my God, I don't know what to wear. I don't know who I am. And I'm really, really busy. So it's really this season of finding yourself, because that's what you're doing through every transition. I could take this in so many different angles. You're going to have to reel me back in.
I just love it. Keep those angles coming and think about that, because the conversation goes so deep, because it depends on what we're experiencing at any given time in our life. We may be like fit a certain archetype of this age, this career, this transition, but then there's all the extended things. Are we in a partnership? Are we getting married? Are we ending a marriage? Are we having kids? Are our kids leaving the nest? Like, it could be at any age stage. So all of that impacts it as well. And so what I love is, everyone check out Katie's Style Squad, because this membership is where they dive into questions like this. And she gives you so many resources of, you don't have to think if this is not your zone of genius. Because I got to say, putting an outfit together, if I see the right pieces, I can do it. But like, shopping is something that I really need to work myself up to. And sometimes planning out what I want to wear can be really challenging too, even if I have everything on hand. Or packing, like traveling. Like I told you, you were in my ear. Thank God for Katie. Before I left for my Europe trip, I was like, oh, okay, so this is what I need to do. Okay, great. Thank you. Because there's too many details. It's not that we can't, it's that portal in our mind, it's not maybe opened yet, and there's too many other portals open. So that's where we want to lean on the people who have this as their natural leading to guide us. And so, yes, Style Squad, you'll see it, I'm sure, linked probably from your Instagram.
Yep.
So just go to Katie's Instagram after and do that. And if you're listening to this on the podcast, I will have everything linked below of how you can find and follow her as well. And so, yeah, I feel like with this season, there also comes a lot of questions of, well, what comes next in terms of, you know, all of the different events and things that then come in the fall, and, you know, and weather and all of those sorts of things, like dressing and, you know, dressing for like events, which I believe you have a whole segment on that too. Certain types of business dress, business travel, conferences, things like that. There's a lot of pieces to it. So maybe speak to that a little bit, like how you help people delineate those little steps so they can plan, and how far in advance should they be planning to feel safe and chill.
Yeah. Well, I'll just answer the planning one real quick, because I feel like that one's a toss up and it gets people going a little bit. I say bare minimum, give yourself a month, because hear me out, like, don't freak out. Because if you give yourself a month, then you don't have to feel overwhelmed. And I like to include time for shipping. If we're assuming that you might need to buy a piece, not saying we need to buy a full outfit, but like if you do have like a big workshop or in-person event coming up, just a month before that, because if you are planning something really big, you're already working on it a month in advance, and your outfit should just be one of those stepping stones in that plan. Give yourself a month and start, and this kind of answers both questions, I think, really honestly. Start with the intention, like the thing that you're planning. Why are you going to the thing? Like, what's your goal? What's your intention? What do you want to walk away with? And then all of those words or things that you wrote down, dress to that, right? Like if you're going to this big networking event, like we have a couple ones here locally. If you're going to that big networking event and your goal is like, I want to meet other women just like me, then what are you wearing that's going to connect? And like, speaking of just like the lipstick you were talking about at the very beginning, if I see you in an event, I'm scanning the room and I'm beelining and I'm like, okay, that's my person. That's my person. And we all do that all day long, regardless if we think we're doing it or not. It's like part of the subconscious, right? Like our brain is just making attachments and patterns because that's how our brain doesn't think. It's like, if I can make patterns of things and I can file this away, then it makes it easy for me. So always go with your intention. Like, what are you dressing for? And if you know a month in advance, you're doing this one big thing, just what are those things? And then go back to in the closet and be like, okay, so what is that? And then try on the outfit. And like, nothing's more stressful than like last minute tech issues or last minute, what am I going to wear? And then now you're running out to Old Navy or you're buying something on Amazon that you're never going to wear again, that you're going to waste your money, you're going to throw it away. So give yourself time and space, even if it's just a belt, even if you just want to add the belt, like give yourself time and space to connect, to think of it. And I always say, like, shopping should be intentional. Shopping, I have so many things for shopping. And I think there's two sides to this. There's shame that comes with shopping. And women have been taught that if they shop for themselves around fashion and style, it's shameful and it's frivolous and you should have your finances in order. So that's my new sword that I'm dying on currently. And then there's just the flat out overwhelm of like, I don't even have time to think about this. Like, I don't even know what to wear. So like you said, listen to the podcast if you don't know what to wear. And we can talk through that, but give yourself time to just let it ship and let it come in and see if it works and see if it doesn't work. So I always say plan an hour. And then as far as the figuring out like which angle you want to go in, it's always how do you want to feel for me? That's my very first question, no matter what, any day, all day. Like the times that you and I've talked, it's always how do you want to feel today? And I would never forget the day that one of the days we recorded on the podcast, I did not, it wasn't my best day. It was raining. I had to take my kids to the dentist. Anyone listening has to take their kid to the dentist. Like, that's just never my best day. Do you relate?
Yeah.
And I remember like getting dressed and I was like, I know what I'm going to wear because it's going to make me feel good. And a lot of times in those moments, we want to choose the out and we want to choose the sweatpants and we want to choose the messy bun because everything else sucks. But don't, because that's where I think like the power comes in. Mm-hmm. So start with how do you want to feel? And then I have, just to keep it super simple, and I love alliteration, so stick with me. But I think it's another thing that makes it super easy and fun. Easy and fun. Those are my go-tos. Is I do casual client celebration, right? Like, is it a casual meeting for coffee? And then next step is like client. Are we meeting a client for lunch? You know, like that's our next step. Like, and then are we celebrating something for dinner? And like those are like the 3 levels but I always do like casual client celebration. So where are we at in that? And then obviously there's a sliding scale. Maybe it's a little casual, maybe it's a little client, but you get to pick.
I love that. I see little frameworks like that are so helpful because they stick with us and we remember it when we're actually in the moment. And I have to say, it's so interesting because when you said like planning in advance for this trip or this event that you're going to, well, the event is important. And yet so often the fashion or like, you know, because the word fashion sometimes for people, just the idea of fashion, it just feels frivolous to people. They just picture a catwalk and like, oh,
yeah.
Meanwhile, fashion has shaped so much of how we view the world. And yet it's often an afterthought. Meanwhile, you have to, like you said before, you have to put on clothes to leave the house. Why not be intentional about it? And when it comes to fashion, it's like also the accessories. Like,
yes,
you know, those, for me, those have often been the afterthought. And now I find myself looking for accessories that I love and then building an outfit around an accessory, which makes it really playful. And I'm very creative. I love music. I love art, and really fashion and adorning ourselves. Yeah. It is an art form. Love that word, adorning ourselves. Like that sounds, that doesn't sound vain. That doesn't sound frivolous. That just sounds embodied, fun, you know? And it's really like, it's our earth, all of nature is adorned in beauty. We don't say, oh, those flowers, they're so frivolous because they're so pretty and all the colors, you know, what
how dare they bloom and shine like that?
Right? So we are creation. And so we need to adorn ourselves in the way that feels good. And I think that's the key. What you said, how do you want to feel? Not, ooh, I need to fit in or compare. It's more great. Celebrate how everyone can look and feel their own best. And you get to look and feel your own best as well. And I had, while you were talking, just 2 words came into my mind, and it was fashion playlist. When I think about music and mood and energy, I typically have playlists for different ways that I feel. And so you can have like a fashion playlist for those 3 C's, you know, so you can have them. I don't know. Do you recommend having like parts of your closet organized in such a way that just makes it easy? Hey, this is the casual corner. This is the client corner. This is the celebration. And then if you need to, you can mix and match. Or is that, what do you think?
Yeah, no, that's a great idea. I'm thinking, do I have mine like that? I might a little bit. I actually do a lot of mine by color, but I think I do kind of like have it like that. Like these are kind of my big, like feel good pieces back there. I love that. I just love everything you were saying. I love the fashion playlist. And you're talking about like fashion. That's why I really started using the word style instead of fashion, because I feel like style has a slightly different, like you're like, oh yeah, because like everyone has a style, and we use that. Like, what's your leadership style? Like, what's your, you know, all these other ways that we use style. But when you were saying that, so many good things. That adornment. So, and I think I saw a couple of Style Squad members on here a second ago. We've been talking about like daily acts of adornment, like baby steps, right? So like you take that baby step, and it's like, here's the daily act of adornment. Whether it's doing your hair or putting on your favorite ring or the other one we were saying, wearing perfume.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a client one time that she had 5 different perfumes and she wore all 5 of them for different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
So I took a page out of her book. So like I have a date night perfume and I only wear it when it's just my husband and I. Not to family dinner, not to any other thing, but when just him and I are having a date night or just a trip by ourselves or like whatever it is. And like that smell signals to my brain, Mama Katie has left the building. It's time to turn up, people.
That is so cool. Well, aromatherapy, it's a whole thing. It's one of those senses. We are sensory beings.
Yes. Yes.
Whatever it is, right? So yes, touch, taste, sight, smell, all of those things, like the feeling of things. And so I love that you do that. I want to do that. I'm going to do that. I'm going to share that. That's so all of my friends who are watching this, if you're here on the replay, please do that. Figure out what your signature scents are for these different. That is such a cool idea. And yeah, I do prefer, and I think it's obviously really well thought out that you use the word style instead. And it's funny how my mind automatically, when we start talking about style, I do flip to fashion in my brain. It's like programming, right? And again, it's this idea that, it's just been delineated through the media of how we're supposed to feel about things. And I think partially it is maybe subversively, maybe intentionally, maybe not intentionally, I don't know, to make us feel inadequate somehow and like keep us always feeling like we're in this place of sitting on the edge, teetering, not sure. And that is a beautiful recipe for keeping us small as well. Yeah. But I need to say that in our conversations, like I was already moving to this position in my life where I was ready to be making some shifts. But when I met you, you kind of catalyzed things because I realized how good I started to feel when I started to think with the intention of, ooh, what type of jewelry would feel good right now? And I'm going to go to this event, or I'm just going out on my own. How do I want to feel? How do I want to look? I used to do that all the time. And then it's very easy when you're working from home to just be like, oh, well. And I mean, I always kind of put myself together, but it's, you get your home office uniform on and it kind of gets bland. And we all had our COVID uniform, which is like, hello, yoga pants, right? Yeah. So, which I still love my yoga pants. I'm wearing some right now, I have to say. Of course. But they're just so comfortable. But I have now a whole lot of other options because I got intentional about it. So thank you. It's not just about what it looks like. It is about how you feel. So the choices, I really believe, need to be connected to more, what do I want to project? Absolutely. I want to feel, not what are they going to think? Because that, again, we're trying to detach from that in all areas of our life. Yeah. So that we can actually do the things in our life that we're meant to be doing based on what we're feeling led to do. Not, oh, well, what will they think? They're not going to, honestly, I was saying this in a group this morning. When I approached 50, that process was super interesting. I started to realize that all the people who I cared about what they thought didn't care at all. Like they didn't care about celebrating with me when I had a celebration or, saying, oh, I'm so sorry that happened if something bad happened. Like, so it's very, very interesting, right? Nobody, like, I don't want to say nobody cares. There are people that care, but honestly, people are more focused on their own situation. Yes. So do what you love. Do you.
Yes. And like reverse that. And when you get dressed, do it for you. Like if I hear one more person say to me, well, I didn't get dressed up because I had no one to see it. Like, oh, stop. Do it for yourself. Working from home is tricky. Right? Like working from home is your comfort zone. And if you're an entrepreneur, work from the most comfortable place in the world. Work from your sanctuary, but do shit that's radically uncomfortable. That's so much dissonance in your brain. Like I'm overcoming, but I've sat here for 17 years, I could do stuff. And now all of a sudden, like I can't. And I really had to tease that apart. And I was like, this is my house. This is where I come to relax, where I come to be comfortable. Yeah. So yes, wearing comfortable clothes in your house is obvious, right? Like you always should, but the working from home, there should be so much intentionality into that, and use your outfits to tell yourself when you're shifting roles. Because I think that's the other part, especially for women, that's really hard, is like in this space, my daughter could barrel in any second. My husband can barrel in any second. A client can pop up on Zoom any second, theoretically. Who am I? I Katie the wife? Am I Katie the mom? Am I Katie the service provider? Like, who am I? My clothes help me do that because, like you said, we are very sensory. So when I see my reflection in the mirror during the day, I'm like, okay, look at you. You got this. You know what you're talking about.
Oh yeah.
And then when I put my hair up or I switch into a different t-shirt, then I'm like, okay, we're about to go cook dinner and chill and play Uno or like whatever it is. And I use that to help me. And I tell people that all the time. Yoga pants are amazing. I go makeup free all weekends and I wear stuff all the time, right? One of my favorite things is to go to the grocery store unrecognizable. But I save that moment as something for myself and it's a part of who I am. It's a version of who I am. Like do it for yourself, especially if you're working at home.
Mm-hmm. Oh, preach. This is so good. It's funny. Who knew style could feel like church? I mean, honestly, it is pretty awesome. And I'm just really grateful that we've been able to have this conversation today. And, as if anyone who's been watching these or following along, my live summer conversation series has had a number of people coming in, just sharing what's landing for them this season. And actually, I'd love to end on that with you. What has been your biggest learning experience thing you're bringing with you into the next season from the summer season here in the Northern Hemisphere? You're down under. Happy winter. You're heading into spring.
Yes.
It's kind of a time of renewal or harvest, like whichever way you look at it at this time of year around the world. And so as a result, these are shorter conversations, but they're just punchy and short. And I just love that you were so game to join me. But please do share what has been your biggest learning of this season that you're taking into the fall.
I think what I'm taking into the fall, and this is a really, really new one for me, two things is one, I'm more capable than I give myself credit for. And two, practicing the art of being disliked.
Ooh, that is a good one.
I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means because I love external validation. And then I have to pick apart what does that mean from a style perspective. So because it is external, it appears to be, it's not for me. So that art of being disliked, and what does that mean for me?
Okay. Well, I think there's going to be some juicy Voxer conversations between us subsequent to this conversation. I can't wait to hear how you navigate that. And I'm happy to be witnessing it along the journey because frankly, I realize I'm in that place too. Like I mentioned, headed towards 50, that's what happened. Now I'm so I just celebrated 51. And, as a result, it's you do start to get this sense of, and a deepened sense of self. And I think it gets deeper and deeper, and not from a selfish standpoint, but just a self-awareness, self-knowledge, and so much more self-love.
Yes.
And yes, the Lita F coach,
Sasha.
definitely learning not to care about external validation. Yeah. It's a lesson for many of us. I mean, it's been groomed into us since before we were born through, our ancestors. So it would come by naturally. So we're all unwinding from it together. And that's what feels the best, that we get to say this out loud. So thank you for sharing that. And thank you for sharing all of your other wisdom. Everyone, please go follow Katie. You see her Instagram handle there, and I will make sure I link some things in this episode and in the show notes, as this is going to be soon on the podcast. I'm so grateful you were here, and I hope you have an awesome day.
You too. Thank you so much, Sheila. I enjoyed it.
Awesome. Thanks for being here, everyone. Take care.